Hello and welcome back to Inside Devils. It hits a little bit different this time because we are back in the Champions League. This is YouTube's best show. Yeah, I'm just saying it because I feel like saying it. Right here on talkSPORT, keeping you right up to date with everything going on inside and outside of Old Trafford. Let's bring in Alex Crook and Angelina Kelly straight away because this show needs no introduction, really. This show is sponsored by BetMGM. You can download the app or visit betmgm.co.uk, 18 plus, gambleaware.org, and please gamble responsibly. Talk about being responsible, Crookie. We can't get too carried away with Carrick, though. You know, winning all these games, getting us back into the Champions League. Kobbie Mainoo back to being a star again. New contract signed. We need to be responsible, not to get too carried away, right?
I'm getting too carried away. Up the Champions League Reds, as I put out on social media on Sunday night. We can get carried away, can't we? Because let's be honest, we've had so much misery over the last few seasons. This is a moment to cherish. Manchester United back where they belong. UEFA will be absolutely delighted that we're back now to save their Champions League competition. And what a way to do it, because let's be honest, you look at the scoreline, United 3, Liverpool 2, you think, well, that was a close affair. It was anything but, to be honest. We should have been 4 or 5 up at half-time. We gave them 2 ridiculous goals to give them that little bit of hope, and then we absolutely killed them with a late winner from Kobbie Mainoo at the Stretford end. And you know what? If there's a sort of symbol, an emblem of Michael Carrick's tenure, it's Kobbie Mainoo banging in the winner at the Stretford end against the old rivals from Merseyside, because let's be frank about it, if a certain Portuguese bloke was still in charge, Mainoo wouldn't have been at the football club, let alone on the pitch, to come up with that goal.
For our viewers who may not be aware, I think Crookie does indeed, in fact, reference Ruben Amorim. If Ruben Amorim would have been the manager, then Kobbie Mainoo probably wouldn't have been playing. But we always got to help Crookie out with the pronunciation of Ruben Amorim. It sometimes comes out in different ways. Ange doesn't mix her words. She's got no problems with pronunciations. What a feeling there is around the club, beating Liverpool, as Crookie just touched upon there. Really poetic that it's the academy graduate, Kobbie Mainoo, who's been at the club since she was 7, scoring in front of the Stretford end on the same week that he signed his new contract. Can you remember a better feeling around the club in the last, decade or so?
First up, responsibility. Where are you both? Because I'm in the studio on my own. We always call Crookie out.
We tried to skirt around. No.
I just thought I'd let you ask your first question to Crook, but I'm sat here on my own. Number 1, liberty. We should have all been here celebrating, so we'll be discussing that when we finished this show. But I'll stick to the football. I won't hate on either of you too much. But yeah, it is a great feeling. I mean, to get the double over Liverpool in the league for, what was it, the 15-16 season, wasn't it? Absolutely amazing to have that. I just think, I wasn't at the game, but it sounded amazing. People that I know that were there were saying how electric it was. And yeah, just an amazing result, really, isn't it? And I think you look at some of those individual performances. I thought that the first half was really dominant. Fernandes, Šeško, Cunha, all excellent. And yeah, Kobbie Mainoo, I mean, it's such a wonderful goal, such a good finish, especially as Szoboszlai was, sliding in as he hit it. And his form is a vindication for all the United fans who thought that Amorim's treatment of him was poor, including Alex Crook. He's clearly very talented. The fact that Amorim got it so wrong with him is such a red flag about his coaching ability. He's 21 years of age. He's already played like 99 times for the club. It is brilliant. And when you look into what was going to happen with him, I know that the Athletic's Adam Crafton was speaking about it, saying that Manchester United would have sold Kobbie Mainoo last summer. What's interesting is that the offers didn't come. I talked to a few clubs at the time and asked why they weren't. Some had doubts about his physicality, stage of development, not dissimilar to what Amorim was saying. I'm talking about some pretty big Premier League clubs. United would have probably done that deal between 40 to 60 million, and being generous not to upset fans about what the club might have accepted, but it could have been lower than that. So that's what he's saying. And ultimately, they and Amorim are completely wrong, because Mainoo's clearly unbelievably talented and worth way more than 50 to 60 million now, in my opinion. And it goes to show that I think Amorim's ego and devotion to this precious 3-4-3 was holding Mainoo and United back, but also that Carrick has done a great job to believe in Mainoo when seemingly quite a few others didn't.
I think also, in
Yeah.
fairness to Manu, because I broke the story at the time that he was looking to leave the football club, but he only ever really wanted to go out on loan. I think because he felt he could outlast the manager. He obviously didn't want to turn his back on his boyhood club. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for that as well. He never threw his toys out the pram. Obviously, his brother wore that T-shirt that Ange, and I rubbed you up the wrong way at the time. But I don't blame him really, because the disrespect that was shown to someone who should be the poster boy of the academy, someone who scored in an FA Cup final against them down the road, someone who came into the England team at the European Championships and absolutely transformed what was a problematic midfield to that stage, for a highly paid, presumably highly skilled manager not to see his talents, and therefore actually to negate some of Bruno Fernandes's talents, because of course he was being asked to play in a deeper line midfield role. I think it's lamentable. I think he should have been sacked on the spot.
Well, there were really bad. There were really bad decisions, which, when you're not winning football matches, you don't have a leg to stand on. If Kobe Mainoo would have been out the side and Bruno would have been playing in the six, and Garte playing, etc., etc., but Man United were in a position we're in now, winning games, on a good run of form, confidence. You sort of look at collateral and you say, "Wow, the manager just sees it this way. This is a tough one, really." But what can you say? The team's doing really well. And even that, you'd feel more sceptical, because you're like, I still feel we'll be able to go up a level with someone like Kobe Mainoo in it. But what Ruben Amorim did was, he had a certain vision for this team, in his ideology, in the way he sees football, which wasn't synonymous with what we're used to, which we didn't agree with, in style, in actual output, in everything. We just didn't understand what he was trying to do. And he had no results to back up his argument of these, like Crookie said, these sort of really bad decisions that he's been making. For me, when I look at it now, there's one thing about Kobe's ability, right, as a footballer, as a young footballer, that he looks like he's got the world at his feet. He's got to keep calm. He's got to keep going. But I think we've actually ended up, and he's probably ended up, from this bad situation that happened, I think this has probably made him even stronger, And I think for us as fans, it's given us an even bigger insight into actually what he's made of. Because when you put it from his side, Crookie, you're right to mention it. He scored in the FA Cup final, boyhood club. He's gone all the way up into the Euros and played in the final. And that was his breakout season. Kobe Mainoo still has not got an August to a May under his belt, because he's either been injured or out the team. We still have not seen Kobe Mainoo play a full season, which is astonishing. But actually, Kobe Mainoo can look back at this in his career now, or even now, and be like, okay, I've got minerals here. Like, I went through a tough period. I know he was potentially going to leave for his career, but I still kept my training standards high. I still, like you said, didn't do anything silly in the media, start coming out and saying things. And then guess what? When I was given my opportunity, because I stayed locked in, because I stayed fit, because I stayed razor sharp mentally, I knew as soon as I got that nod, which was the first game against Manchester City, which was his first Premier League start in God knows how long, maybe the first of the season, I want to say, he was at it from then and has been at it from January to now, without having been playing for the last sort of 9 months to a year prior. So I think that actually speaks volumes of his character, to say, I've been out for ages, all the noise is about me. Actually, now I've got the chance to come back under Carrick. If I come back and I'm not great, there's going to be people out there saying, this is why Amorim was right to play him. You know how fickle some fans can be, Crookie. If he didn't come back like a house on fire, it's, he's back in the England team, mate, as well. We're forgetting that. So I think, actually, looking back at it, as much as I completely detest what Amorim did, sometimes, glass half full, I'm trying to find the positives out of this awful situation that we were in. And actually, the positives is that Kobe Mainoo, I think, is a better professional now, let alone player. I think he's a better pro because of this experience.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And the point you made about some United fans would have leapt on it as evidence that the old manager was right. They did, to start with, because he didn't necessarily come straight back in the team and hit the ground running. He took a little while to get up to speed. But his form in the last few weeks has been absolutely phenomenal. And that was a difficult goal to score, by the way, because he's come to him quickly on the edge of the box. Liverpool have got bodies flying in his way. He's only really got one corner that he can squeeze it into. He's got to hit it first time. And it just showed what a terrific technical player he is as well. And it's going to be a problem when Casemiro leaves, goals from midfield. But Kobe is someone, I think, who can really step up to the plate and, maybe even get close to double figures if he plays a whole season next year.
Yeah, he's definitely good enough. He's definitely good enough for that. Let's move on to some other topics and bigger points in the game. And, you know, Mateus Cunha with another goal in another massive game, missed the Brentford game because of a slight knock. So, you know, managed to get himself fit for this. He scored the winner against Chelsea. He scored the first one against Liverpool. He's got the assist against Manchester City coming off the bench. He's got the winner against Arsenal. Some buy he's been. And after Bruno Fernandes, has he got a shout of being our player of the season?
In my opinion, I think that Casemiro or Lomans is a little bit ahead of him. I mean, obviously Bruno first, but I think those two players, I think Lomans doing what he has done at such a, you know, coming from a completely different league. He's quite young, coming to Manchester United and just taking over as the first choice goalkeeper. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. I know that there was an error at the weekend, but when I sit and think about how many like absolute calamity moments he's had, but there really haven't been that many, especially especially when you think about, you know, Andre Onana, you'd run out of fingers counting them all. So I think, you know, he has to have a lot of credit, and obviously Casemiro for what he's done this season and the backstory with it. So maybe I'd put them ahead of Cunha, but you know what? Credit where credit's due. I think he scored against some really big teams, like you mentioned, which I think is really important. We needed goal scorers, but we needed people that were going to show up in those moments. So I think that's really good. And I also like the fact that his form has kind of kicked in when Mbeumo's has dropped. It feels like in the first half of the season, Bryan Mbeumo was scoring more goals. Since he's come back from AFCON, I think him and Ahmad haven't seemed 100% themselves. But it's nice that Cunha's kind of stepping in and leading now that Mbeumo's dropped off a little bit. So yeah, I think, but that's what you want from these two players. We need them to score goals, and the fact that they can be kind of picking up the slack from each other when needed is really, really important. And it's just so nice. How long has it been since we've been, you know, looking at our team thinking, yeah, well, you know, Cunha can score and Mbeumo can score. I mean, I know we've had players over the years, but to really look at players and think they are competent in front of goal and they can provide some of those magic moments, it's invaluable. So, yeah, I think Cunha had a really good game, really impressed with him. And considering as much as he has moved from a Premier League club to another Premier League club, it is still a big jump to go to Manchester United, and he seems to be taking it in his stride, really enjoying it. I know that he's come out and spoke really positively about Michael Carrick as well, kind of comparing him to Fergie a little bit. So, yeah, no, a brilliant performance from him again.
Absolutely. And we have to remember as well on Sir Alex, he was, of course, taken to hospital as a precaution after falling ill. He was, of course, at the game, ready to attend, as he always is, at the super big games. You know, the positive news as of today is that he's fine, but he was taken to hospital as a precaution after feeling a little unwell. So yes, of course, all thoughts with Sir Alex to make sure that he gets back on his feet and he's back in that director's box supporting the boys. But equally as important, if he needs to put his feet up on the sofa and watch it at home, then you do what you need to do, Sir Alex, to make sure that you're fighting fit and healthy. So of course, we'll be keeping a close eye on that to make sure that Sir Alex makes a full recovery. I was at the game on Sunday, and there's been a lot made about the atmosphere sort of returning under Carrick, especially in these big games. And I have to say, guys, it did. You don't want to get carried away, but you know what? We spent the first part of the show saying, why can't we? So you know what? I will. It did feel reminiscent of the good times in sort of a smaller, like condensed period, like walking in, you know, all the fans singing, it's loud, everyone's up on their feet, the Stretford end's packed, we've got banners in there now, there's like a cauldron of noise when we go forward, and there's this sort of feeling amongst everybody as well, which was really weird, but positively weird, that everyone felt kind of calm. You know, I'm talking to Man United fans around me, looking to my left, looking to my right, talking to my mates, going, like, do you feel like we're just obviously going to win today? Like, it just feels all right, doesn't it? It almost doesn't feel like we're about to play Liverpool, although we're in good voice. You're not worried, and partly yes, you look at that Liverpool team they put out, and you know there's no Mo Salah, there's no Ekitike, there's no Isak, etc., and no Isak, and they haven't been great. But even still, you should still be feeling it's Liverpool, it's this, and I never thought we was going to lose the game. Even when we started, we had that 10-minute period where we gifted them 2 goals. The crowd where after every goal conceded, which were poor goals to concede, let's be honest, Ahmad gives the ball away, Szoboszlai has the luxury of the park and scores a decent goal, and Sonny Lamans just short circuits and gives them the ball and they score. But after each goal, the crowd were right back up, UNITED, straight away singing, because there was like, no, we're under Carrick, we come back. And actually, what we've been doing under Michael Carrick is showing that resilience. You know, you look at, against Fulham, I think we were 2-0 up. It got pegged back to 2-2 when Kevin wrapped that in the top corner. Then we had to go and find a winner. We were losing against Palace, had to come back and win. We were losing against Arsenal, you know. So we had to show a lot of resilience in certain games. We got pegged back against Villa, I think, from being in a comfortable position and had to go again. So I think we're seeing a lot of resilience. We're seeing a lot of character building with this squad. But that is transmitting into the fans, Crookie. And I have to say, the atmosphere, especially in these home games under Michael Carrick, has been really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got to say, what they're doing at Stretford End with it, you know, the extra flags, that I think makes for quite the spectacle. But you're right. I looked at the Liverpool team, I looked at our team, and I thought, you know what, our 11's better. The worry was what we had coming off the bench, and actually when the game looked like it might be slipping away from us, he was a bit hamstrung, Michael Carrick, in terms of what he could do to really change the course of proceedings. But tremendous character to give away those two awful goals and still get the winner. And as you know, I've kept my powder dry until now, but I did write a long comment piece for talkSPORT.com yesterday on why I think Michael Carrick should be given the keys to the kingdom now. Now our own Hugh Wozencroft has rallied against appointing Carrick. He wants a sexy and Amy. Oh. Well, he keeps talking about Luis Enrique. I mean, last time I checked, Luis Enrique had a contract at Paris Saint-Germain. They might be Champions League finalists in the not too distant future. So I think that's not attainable. Obviously, Thomas Tuchel, who would have been my pick, has signed a new contract with England. And you look at the other options available. Would you swap Carrick for Andoni Iraola, as good a coach as Iraola is? I think the answer is no. Would you swap him for Oliver Glasner? Definitely not, in my opinion. Marco Silva, the same. Do you wait for Carlo Ancelotti? I think people forget, didn't it end particularly well for him at Everton when he was last in the Premier League? I know Nagelsmann has made noises to suggest that maybe he might be interested after the World Cup, but I think we've just got to get this appointment buttoned down. You look at what Carrick has done for Kobbie Mainoo. You look at what he's done for Benjamin Šeško, who looks a real force now at the top end of the pitch. You look at what he brings, that calmness, that authority. From what I'm told, and we all saw it, a lot of the players found his predecessor too emotional, almost childlike at times. You don't get that from Carrick. He knows what it takes to wear that badge. He wears the jacket with distinction. I think it's a no-brainer now. How can you not give him the job? He's beaten Chelsea, he's beaten Arsenal, he's beaten Manchester City, he's beaten Villa, and now he's beaten Liverpool. What more realistically could he have done? If the season had started when he came through the door, United would be top of the table.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much more to discuss. We're going to get into, of course, the future under Michael Carrick, you know, what it looks like under his tenure. Obviously, it hasn't been announced yet, and we don't know if it's definitely going to happen, but I think the strong noises are that. We'll definitely touch more upon that. I mean, I do know that it's the earliest we've gone up 2-0 against Liverpool, sort of in the Premier League era as well. So that's also very interesting. And I want to talk about a few more individuals, actually, from the game. Aiden Heaven. I think we need to discuss Aiden Heaven because we brought him in for £1.5 million as a kid out of Arsenal's academy, / first team, but wasn't getting much appearances. Arsenal stacked with centre-backs and defenders in general. We understand that. But what a steal this is looking like. He was unbelievable against Liverpool, really good against Chelsea, excellent against Brentford. And he's looking so calm, so cool, so collected, and ready to play. He looks ready to play. How good is he?
I thought he was brilliant, and overall, those games that you're touching on there, he's stepped up when needed. You know, we've had these injury issues. Matthijs de Ligt, don't actually know where he is. Lisandro Martinez, obviously, has been in and out. Lenny Yoro, it's just... It's not that I don't rate Yoro, but I just think his confidence has been shot because he has had a few big errors in him. But yeah, Aiden Heaven has stepped up when needed. I think that he's been brilliant overall. Listen, do I think that this means that he has to be in every single starting 11 next season? Maybe not. I don't think that we should let this cloud our judgment that we don't need centre-backs, because we do still need centre-backs. We do still need signings in that area, in my opinion. But I think that this has been a great kind of end to his season, a great bit of progression for him. But you do have to remember that the teams, there's going to be quite a few teams that you would imagine going into the next season are going to be making big signings, are going to be levelling up as well. Because as much as we should enjoy this Liverpool win 100%, and we don't know what the future holds for Liverpool, but you would imagine next season coming up against them, there is going to be an Alexander Isak or a Hugo Ekitike, etc. And I'm not saying that Heaven can't defend against them, but their teams are going to be stronger next season. And it's not to say that he's not got it in him. Maybe he does, and maybe he'll prove me wrong. But I just think you have to have a little bit of caution with this because he is still young. However, you judge him on what he's been doing. He's been brilliant, and Manchester United are going to be in 4 competitions. Hopefully, we're not going to be bowing out of things very, very early on. So I do think that there will still be plenty of games for him to continue playing and developing, even if it's not in the Premier League, starting every single game.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying there, and you do have to be careful with young players for sure. But sometimes, Crookie, you do get it where you try and hold a young player back out of making sure you're not forcing them, forward too quickly. Especially if Michael Carrick does get this job, he's definitely not a manager who is going to get over the top and get excited and start listening to fans and playing young players every single week for 90 minutes because we think they should. But he is also a manager that will trust in his players, especially the academy. He knows what it's like to be at Manchester United, or not in the academy, but he knows what this club stands for. And he is one to progress young players. And if Aiden Heaven keeps going in this direction, which is this trajectory, like Ange's talking about, got to wait and see. But if he does keep going like this, he's going to start staking the claim to be the starting left centre-back, mate. Because even for the rest of this season, I was speaking to fans after the game and they went, yeah, I know Leach's ban's finished, but for the last 3 games, we don't need to change the left centre-back. Leach, got to get the shirt back off the kid. He's playing absolutely fine.
Yeah, and it's a nice bonus, really, because I think if you'd said, Martinez would be suspended, De Ligt, as Anne just touched on, he's going to be injured for the long term, that would have been a concern in terms of squad depth. There might have been talk maybe even of moving Luke Shaw to a left-sided centre-back, as he's played a few times for United in the recent past. But yeah, I mean, I was quite critical of his first 10, 15 minutes against Chelsea, but since then he's not looked back. Aiden.
Oh yeah, forgot about that. Yeah, look
apology.
At that.
Did we get an apology?
Yeah, we basically did get an apology, didn't we, Crookie?
Yeah, you did, and he's not looked back, and he's earned the shirt, and there's still some tough games to come, by the way. And when City were losing last night, I was thinking, you know what, maybe second place is up for grabs. That's probably not
Crookie,
realistic.
Behave, chill out.
Probably not. It's not realistic, but you would like to go on and finish third now. But Sunderland away, not many teams win there. Forest at home. Forest might be distracted by a potential Europa League final, but they're in brilliant form. And then Brighton away. Brighton maybe going for that 6th place that could be Champions League. So I think it's really important that we got this top 5 finish secure. But I would like to go on and finish third now. And if we do, then Aiden Heaven obviously is going to play a big part, because you can't really justify Martinez coming back in at the moment. No,
you can't. I've been just so impressed with him. And I think when you look at where he's at compared to Lenny Yoro, I think one of the biggest differences is actually physically. I think physically Aiden Heaven's there, whereas Yoro still looks to me like he has a little bit of filling out to do, a little bit of bulking to do. I think Aiden Heaven's really strong across the ground. He's strong in the air. I saw him standing next to Harry Maguire and in a clip the other day on social media, and someone else pointed it out. They said, look at him standing next to Harry Maguire. He's probably only like an inch or two smaller than Harry Maguire. So he's a big boy. And I just think he's got that. I think he's more suited to the Premier League now than Lenny Yoro is. And Yoro, I think, is going to be fantastic as well. Definitely one for the future. And he's had some really good games as well. And his confidence has been knocked, like Ange touched upon. So if we play our cards right with these two, and like you're both saying, keep our feet on the ground, still invest in the centre-back department, and get guys to nurture these two, Aiden Heaven and Yoro could be the future at the heart of Manchester United's defence. But a lot of work needs to go into it. It's early days, but I don't see too many young centre-backs that side of, sort of 20, 19 years of age playing for the clubs the size of Manchester United and getting as much game time as they are. And sometimes it's indicative of where the club is, that you have to rely on youngsters that aren't quite ready yet, and that's why Man United aren't challenging for top honours. But on the other side, it's brilliant for these two, especially Aiden Heaven at this moment where, like I said, he was bought for such a small transfer fee. I know from the club what they said to me during the summer, that it was a more, get him in, we'll see how it goes, see if we can get in the first team. But the injuries that happened last year gave us a quick look at him and you go, tell you what, he's all right, he's ready. And then injuries this season, the suspension has let him play, because I'm pretty sure if Michael Carrick had Maguire and Martinez fit the whole time, like he was showing us, those would have been his preferred choice. But then Yoro came in, and then Heaven got to come in as well. Patrick Dorgu is back as well. Listen, a few little bits of ring rust, Crookie, when he came on, but just good to have him back after being out for so long. And I do want to touch on just a little blip from Senny Lummins, Crookie. Like Ange said, he has been right up there as player of the season, monumental upgrade. But that was the first sort of high-profile mistake he's made. But it's just a blip, isn't it? Right? Everyone makes mistakes.
Absolutely. I think that is statistically his first error leading to a goal. The fact he's a young goalkeeper learning his trade, obviously encouraged to play out from the back. I think that speaks volumes. He looked crestfallen. I felt for him, and he would have been as relieved as anyone when Mainu stuck that ball into the bottom corner. But yeah, I'm not going to hammer him. I think for the money we paid, he's been transformative, and we might well end up with a new goalkeeper in the summer, but not a new number one, because I think he cemented that jersey. He might even get the number one jersey, and it'll be a backup, to come and support him, because we expect Anana to depart the club, even though obviously he's coming back from his loan spell. But just on Dorgu, I didn't realise, I was watching my two boys, and did you know the kids have called him the Ballon Dorgu? That's his new nickname, apparently.
Where have you been? Where have you been, Crookie? Yeah, we've been doing Ballon d'Orgu from the goal at Arsenal. It's Ballon d'Orgu and Ballon d'Orgu and Dorgy Best.
Well, I'm obviously not down with the kids, but that did make me laugh. But you know what? You're right. He did look rusty. There was that one incident when he sort of fell over inside the penalty area. But I think as a left winger, he could have something to offer. I don't think
he's got something. Yeah,
he's good enough to play left back. But there is a player there. And again, it's probably a sign, isn't it? That it took a change of manager to actually realise what his best position was.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about a change of manager, that brings us on to talking about Benjamin Sesko as well, because another goal for him, although slightly contentious, depending on who you ask, but also depending on what weekend it is in the Premier League, because sometimes they're disallowed when you can't categorically say his fingernail clipped the ball. But sometimes they guess and say, actually, yes, it did. So, but we were on the right end of a decision from VAR, which we're due one. So I've got no sympathy for Liverpool, as you can imagine. But since Amorim departed, no player has more Premier League goals than Benjamin Sesko. He scored 9 since Amorim departed in January. So what a turnaround for him. Not too many starts under Carrick as well. He's building them up in the most recent games, actually. So a bit of a mixed bag for him in terms of first season goes. How do you think he's done, Ange? Because he's into double figures now.
Well, this is it. I mean, how long has it been? I mean, I think Rasmus Højlund did get double figures, didn't he, at one point?
He did. He got 16 in his first season.
Yeah, but to actually, I'll be honest, I didn't have a lot of faith in Rasmus Højlund. I've got more faith in Benjamin Sesko. For me personally, he looks more like a striker. As silly as that might sound, it might sound trivial to people, but he just looks competent. He looks confident. He looks like a striker. I think that it's probably not been the easiest season, but you know what? You're playing for Manchester United. It's not always going to be easy. And when there's been such a drought of a decent forward that can score goals, there's a lot of expectation on his shoulders. And I think he's done well overall. I like the fact that he can come off the bench and be effective. He can also start games and do well. So overall, I think he should be really happy with it. I think that you look at all of the strikers across the board that came in this season, everyone's criticising players. You look at someone like Victor Gyökeres, who has got, over 20 goals for Arsenal, but Arsenal fans still aren't having him. They're still not convinced by him. So I just think it's such a difficult position to find, to recruit in. And I think it's a difficult position to have to play in. Like I say, there's a lot of expectation, but yeah, I think he's done well. And regarding the goal, I mean, Sesko's goal could have been disallowed for handball, but it was so hard for VAR to tell if it did touch his hand, I think. So surely it's the kind of situation where maybe you don't want VAR to get involved. And also, I think that Liverpool fans shouldn't be moaning about this. I think that they should be pretty happy with it, because Curtis Jones does actually push Sesko over in the box earlier on in the move when he's about to shoot. Yeah. So if VAR ruled the goal out for handball, then they would have had to have gone back and looked at that too. So Liverpool actually could have had a red card and conceded a penalty. So maybe they were actually lucky that the Šeško goal was given, because they could have lost a player in that. So I don't really know why they're complaining, to be honest. So yeah, I think good for Šeško that he got the goal, and I'm excited to see what he's got to bring next season, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really uncharacteristic of Arne Slot to be moaning at the end of games. Not really see him do it too much before. Very out of character. So
how deluded was he, by the way, when he came out and said that they controlled most of the game? They got absolutely annihilated in that first half. And you know what? I think there's 2 points I want to make. One, I think there's an argument that opening 45 minutes is probably the best that we've played under Carrick, maybe up there with the Manchester derby. And secondly, we almost saw goal of the season for me. That reverse pass out to the right-hand side, the take from Bruno Fernandes, the first time cross into the area, and then Brian Mbeumo with a back heel against the post. We'd have been talking about that goal for years if that had gone in.
Yeah, right in front of the Stretford end as well. I mean, the producer has been in my ear saying Liverpool did have 60% possession, which they did. However,
yeah, but
I think that was by
nonsense.
design. They didn't do
Leicester
anything
won the
with
league
it,
with no possession. Tell him to stick to producing. We'll stick to the football chat. Producer
Jay is giving you a Jamie Carragher. Stick to the producing before the producing leaves you, I think he wanted to say. But no, we love our producer Jamie. He's going there. He's
Crook won't be on the show next week if he carries on. He's plays cards right here. He's going to get caught.
I don't think I am on the show next week. I'm playing at Spurs.
Hang on, you're playing at Spurs?
Yeah. I've been asked by our sponsors actually to play on the pitch at Tottenham. So I don't know if I've got to wear a Tottenham kit, but if I do, I'm going to have a United jersey underneath. So when I score, inevitably I'll whip it off.
Okay, brilliant. Let us know how that goes.
The irony of Crookie saying inevitably he'll take his top off. I thought he was just saying inevitably that you score. So
yeah, that's right.
Score first.
That's what I did mean.
Oh, goodness me. All right, let's bring it back to Manchester United. Let's get some order under this chaos inside here today. Let's talk about the amount of money the Manchester United are supposedly supposed to be getting through Champions League qualification, believed to be at least £70 million through the door. Crookie, you touched on this a little bit earlier. Ange, I'll come to you straight after Crookie on this. It's only right that Carrick gets to stay and spend this money and start building this squad, right?
I think so. I think it's such a complicated summer in terms of hiring managers because of the World Cup, and all the best ones obviously are engaged on international duty, that I think you've got to get your ducks in a row early, because we know the areas of the team that need strengthening. Central midfield is massive. A backup left back, maybe another central defender, as you said, maybe even another number 9, although it feels like they're pretty relaxed about that because, of course, when Mbeumo can play there, Cunha can play through the middle as well. But Michael Carrick, as I understand it, has very much been a part of those recruitment meetings, which I think is a pretty clear indication that he's in the box seat, even though United tell us they want to go through a thorough process. I think talks are going to accelerate with Michael Carrick, and I don't understand why anyone would rally against it. What really annoys me, actually, is this lazy argument. Oh, look what happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Well, first and foremost, it wasn't all bad under Ole. You know, he did finish second. He was penalty kicks away from winning the Europa League. He was longer in the job than Jose Mourinho, David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, all those more experienced managers. Yes, it didn't end very well, but there were some good times under Ole. But also, Michael Carrick's a very different character. You know, he's shown he can be ruthless. He dropped his former teammate Cristiano Ronaldo during his interim spell. He dropped Bruno at that time as well. So he doesn't suffer fools. And I think the fact he's a little bit understated, maybe people say, well, he lacks charisma. I think that's a positive because, as I say, the last manager was too emotional. You know, he spoke too much in press conferences. It was great from us, but there were times as fans when you were saying, just shut up, Ruben, what are you saying? So, yeah, I think they've got to hire Michael Carrick. Optics, they've got to give him a long-term contract, but it won't really be a long-term contract because there'll be a year buyout in there, as we saw with Liam Rossini at Chelsea. So I think this will just get done. And also, why would you want a complete reset again? You know, a lot of players have come out and backed him. I think Kobe Mainoo said you put your life on the line for him. Cunha said he had, quotes, the magic of Ferguson, which might be taking it a bit far. I'm sure Carrick would blush at those suggestions. But clearly the dressing room are on board with what he's trying to do. So just give him the job.
And I know you're, very calm, very measured, very smart.
Am I?
These good adjectives I'm giving. Yeah, sometimes you are. Sometimes, the odd time when you choose to be, you've got it in the locker. But I think we have been quite cautious about Carrick at various points, not trying to get carried away, waiting to see how things play out. Have you seen enough play out now to get to the conclusion that Carrick should be the manager, or are you waiting to see any more evidence? I suppose.
I mean, I think Crook touched on it earlier. What more do people want? Got more points than any other team since he took charge. Has beaten some of the biggest teams in the Premier League. So I don't know what people need to see more. And he secured Champions League. When you think about Real Madrid, they're being linked, I believe, Crookie, correct me if I'm wrong, they're being linked with Jose Mourinho and Unai Emery. So that tells you everything about the lack of top quality options available at the moment. Because like we say, Luis Enrique living his best life with PSG, potentially going to be getting to a final with them again, potentially winning the Champions League again with them. You've got Thomas Tuchel locked into a contract. You've got Julian Nagelsmann locked into a contract with Nations. So I just think that there aren't options. If someone can give me a decent option, then I'm all ears. Iraola, yeah, but he's got no body of work with a top club to demonstrate that he would do a better job. And also, if Michael Carrick is given the job, let's say that we get to Christmas, and I hope this isn't the case, but let's say that things aren't clicking. There is nothing to then stop Manchester United pivoting. And I think, Flex, you said it, months ago, you said if somebody is not performing correctly as the manager, then you have to get rid and go again. And maybe that's just what will have to happen. I hope that Michael Carrick is a success. But if he isn't, who knows what's going to happen after this World Cup? Maybe someone like Julian Nagelsmann would become available. Maybe someone like Thomas Tuchel. Maybe Luis. We don't know. So I think for now, he is the best option. And that's who you've got to go with. And like Crook said, players seem to like him. Kobe Mainoo saying that he'd die for him or whatever. I know that some of the... some of his teammates like Paul Scholes, Gary Neville, Roy Keane maybe don't seem to be having him too much. Interesting that people that are on punditry that are a similar age to him, though, that we've seen, like Owen Hargreaves, Joe Cole, they seem to really do like him. Which I do find quite interesting. But, if he's well liked and the players keep speaking about wanting him, then why not? It might be a little bit concerning that they've not spoken to anybody else, I believe. I mean, should the club be doing a little bit more due diligence, even if Carrick is the deserved front runner? Maybe you can argue it. But I'll go back to the point of, I don't even know who you'd be speaking to that you look at and think, 100% they do a better job than Carrick. You can't call it.
Yeah,
I'd love to get Hugh on this programme, actually, and get his views, because there isn't an obvious candidate. And you're right, Chelsea are looking around, Iraola, Marco Silva, Alonso, who obviously we couldn't hire because of his Liverpool connection, seem to be the three preferred runners for them. And again, I think that just highlights what you've said, that the lack of genuinely world-class managers that are out there. And the other thing about Carrick, it's not always going to go perfectly. This honeymoon won't continue, but it'll get more latitude from the fans than an outsider would.
Yeah. And you'd like to think he'd have a base level that he won't go below. So Man United being 15th, where they're just absolutely awful or can't buy a win, and seeing what we saw, I don't think Carrick would go below that. I think there's this misconception from people who don't want Carrick to get the job, that people who think he should get the job are saying it's all going to be rosy, it's all going to be perfect. And before we move on, the only thing that's been annoying me most is this, one game a week. What are you going to do when you've got more than one game a week? Why are people acting like Manchester United as an institution to have no clue what it's like to be in a season where there's more than one game? It's the most ridiculous. Like, people are just, they say it as this, like every season there's a new set of buzzwords that are just part of the season or a certain narrative. So the narrative could be, Arsenal bottle jobs, or, United this year it's one game a week. Mate, last year we played like 50 odd games. Played way too many games. Like, people are forgetting that this year is the anomaly. There's not going to be people in Manchester United. Michael Carrick's not going to be like, flipping heck, what are we going to have to do?
How am I going to adjust to this new thing that I've got to deal with? Yeah.
I'll tell you what we're going to do.
Also, he's managed in the Championship.
He's managing the Championship, where it's even more games than anything.
Saturday, Tuesday, intense.
It's the most stupid, lazy narrative of like, yeah, but what are you going to do when you have... Okay, well, it doesn't mean we're going to win all the cup. We're not going to go win the treble, but the fact that you think we're going to be completely non-competitive just because we've had one game a week this year versus last is laughable. What about the positive side of it? Of actually, as we've seen and we've discussed so many times, having too long off during the games, even with a small squad, it was hurting us. We had no rhythm, no continuity. So you want that balance. No one's legislating for that the players are going to be warm. And after a loss, you don't have to wait a week, maybe 2, sometimes 3, before you even play again. You can play again in the next 3 or 4 days. Then also the noise goes down because you might be in a bit of sketchy form in the Premier League, but you get a big win in the FA Cup or a big win on a Tuesday or Wednesday night under the lights, get the confidence going again. So all of these naysayers that keep talking about one game of a week, sort your head out, man. Acting like Man United have never had to play 50 games a season. Get the hell out of here. I hate that narrative. It really, really annoys me. Crookie, let's talk transfers because, again, another week since we've spoken, obviously it's becoming very, very clear that Kobbie Mainoo needs a top partner and Manchester United need a top midfield department. We know Ineos are searching big. In this week, reports have suggested that up to £150 million could be spent on central midfielders. We've heard that West Ham's Mateus Fernandes has been linked. There's also Morgan Rogers noises. Peter Schmeichel gave a rogue shout on the podcast with Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes about Granit Xhaka maybe in the experience that Casemiro's would leave as a void. So what's the latest, Crookie, for Manchester United's search of a central midfielder and central midfielders, should I say?
Yeah, that Mateus Fernandes link is not a new one. I remember writing about that in my notebook several months ago now. He's a player that they've tracked previously. Obviously, he was a player that the old manager knew well, but it could be quite a sensible pickup if West Ham go down because they might sign 3 midfielders, but they're not going to sign 3 80 to 100 million pound midfielders. I think they have to be quite clever with what they invest. That's why Hayden Hackney at Middlesbrough, someone that Michael Carrick knows well, is on their radar. Alex Scott down at Bournemouth, we've spoken about in the past. Tchouameni, Edison at Atalanta, all cheaper than the likes of Elliot Anderson and Sandro Tonali. I think Anderson's going to go to Manchester City. I've said that to you before. Tonali, I think, would prefer to go back to Italy than stay in the Premier League, but I'm not sure that any of those Serie A clubs can afford him. The Carlos Baleba itch has never really been scratched, even though he's not had a stellar season at Brighton. I think the recruitment team at Old Trafford see him as someone who can complement Kobbie Mainoo because, again, that shows you how far Mainoo has come from sort of bench warmer who wanted to leave to first team regular. That they're not looking at someone to replace Kobbie anymore. They're looking at someone to go in and play alongside him. That could well be Carlos Baleba, and I think they're willing to forgive the fact he's not had a great season with Brighton. They still see that he's got the attributes, but it will come down to price. Ultimately, there was a story in The Athletic that they might be able to get him for 50 million quid. I've got to tell you, my sources at Brighton laugh that suggestion out of town. That they still see him as, potentially sort of Moises Caicedo level of money. So it's going to be really interesting to see where they do actually settle. But the options are there, aren't they? The Adam Wharton noise seems to have gone a bit quiet, to be fair, and I think he may well be Liverpool bound. My issue with him has always been the energy levels. I think, I've watched him a lot, and he seems to empty out during games. Quite often gets taken off, with sort of half an hour remaining, and I wonder if United have got concerns over that.
Yeah, it will be fascinating to see where it lands. Like the squad as it is isn't fit for purpose for next year. That I do agree.
You think they'll keep Xerxes, by the way? Because he came on at the end. He held the ball up well. He's obviously got good technical ability. I'm wondering now, with the extra games, with the fact he might be suited for European football, could there yet still be a role for Joshua Xerxes?
Yeah, it depends how Michael Carrick sees it.
Depends what
with
offers
more
are on the
games, you'd
table
like to
as
maybe.
well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's just a really good point. If someone slaps down 40 million for Joshua Xerxes or 35 million, what we paid for him, roughly, maybe Man United look at that. But then you have to be able to reinvest that 35 to 40 million pounds. To turn our attention, so before we finish the show, Ange, there are still games left to play. Some people could call it a dead rubber, but we want to get third. We want to make sure we finish third. It is mission complete in terms of getting back in the Champions League. We know that, which was the main thing. But how important is it for us to keep finishing on a high and be even more motivated for more wins, as Carrick keeps speaking about, Ange, that they want more, they want more.
Yeah, I think it's really important to finish the season strong. Yeah, secured Champions League football, that's brilliant. But it's still, we've still got games to play. And as everyone likes to let us know that we don't play enough games, we only play one game a month or whatever the jokes people like to throw at us. So I think the fans deserve to have the remaining games be just as good as that Liverpool game, to be entertaining for the fans to enjoy, because the first half of the season was awful. Like, it was depressing having to watch Manchester United. So, yeah, I want to see them finish strong. I think that also, just, I guess, from a transfer perspective, if there are players, I mean, Ugarte and co are probably not going to be playing, but I think it's a good chance that if there are some players playing and they play well, then that's good for people that might be looking at them. And, for certain players that there might be question marks over if Manchester United want to keep them, good opportunity for them to, to show the hierarchy what they're made of. So, yeah, I just think, why not? Why wouldn't you want United to finish strong? I'd be really gutted if it dropped off now, because, again, that's also going to bring question marks to Michael Carrick of, he's achieved this one thing, he's got Champions League football, then he's took his foot off the gas. You can't do that when you're playing in 4 competitions, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, finishing strong is important.
Crookie, do you want to see, some different faces getting a little bit of game time in these last 3 games, or very much as is? The big one, we spoke about it, actually, say some different faces. Does Martinez get back in the team? That's a big shout.
Maybe, but again, 1 game a week. I'm not sure that Michael Carrick is going to be inclined to change too much. The team are in a nice rhythm now. 3 successive victories, 2 more, and your pal, the attention seeker, can get his haircut at last.
Here we go. I didn't want to bring it up. I wasn't going to bring it up, Crookie. You went there. I wasn't even going to bring it up, mate.
But, I think 9 points available. Finished the season on 73 points. I've not got the stats ahead of me, but it's been a while since a Manchester United team achieved that. And as I say, they do that. 3rd place is up for grabs. I got laughed out of town when I said they finished 5th at the start of the season. So a few people will owe me an apology. And I think just for his own prospects, I think Michael Carrick is going to want to finish strong. So I would expect the team at Sunderland to be quite similar to what we've seen. And it might be a good time to play Sunderland. No wins in their last 3. They've started to drop points at home. Question marks over Reggie Lebree's long-term future. So maybe this is as good a time as any to go to the stadium alike.
Yeah, exactly. They're not exactly in the most eye-catching form that they were earlier on in the season. That's for sure. And I agree with you. Keep it consistent. Keep a continuous feeling going. And don't make too many changes, Michael. That's what I'm saying. Right now, it's time for the Bet Builder with BetMGM. Remember, you can download the app, or you can head over to betmgm.co.uk. And what have you got for us? Sunderland away.
Right, so what I have gone with is, first up, at full time, it's be a Manchester United win. That's a no-brainer. I mean, United still need a win or 2 to confirm that 3rd place, which we want. So, yeah, United are going to win. Then I've gone with over 1.5 goals for Manchester United. Sunderland have conceded 9 in their last 3 games, and United scored 3 games at the weekend, so figured that would be quite realistic. And then for United to hit the woodwork, we have hit it more times than anyone this season. Man United have hit the woodwork more than anyone this season. So for me, that's what I've gone with. Man United at full time to win, over 1.5 goals from Man United, and United to hit the woodwork.
I love that, and you know what? I wasn't aware of the woodwork one, actually.
Yeah.
Now you reminded me of it. Yeah, we have actually. But sometimes when you're going through the games, it doesn't often feel like that, though, does it? But there you have it. I like it, though. It's nice and positive. That is all we got time for this week on Inside Devils. Champions League confirmed. Just get on and spend the money and rebuild the team. A big thanks to Angelina Kelly and Alex Crook, as always. And this show is sponsored by BetMGM. Remember, you can download the app, or you can visit betmgm.co.uk. 18+. Gambleaware.org. Please gamble responsibly. We'll see you on the next episode next week. Take care.